I used the new Fujifilm GFX100 RF in outer space. Right? Cool, right? It's cool, right? It is cool. I think it's cool. What's up, Fuji fam, Fuji flakes, and Fuji freaks? Thank you for joining me for this review. Now, I didn't go to space, of course. I didn't go to space. I'm holding a tricorder. If you know what this is, you belong here. This channel's for you. If you don't know what this is, you can continue watching, but I've lost all respect for you. Today, we're talking all about this, the 100 megapixel, fuller figured than full frame, Fujifilm GFX100 RF camera. Thank you, Fujifilm, for sending me this demo model to try out. I don't get to keep it, unfortunately, unless I flee the country with it. So I'm gonna send it back. However, thanks for sending it to me. And while you're here and you're gonna buy one, you're definitely gonna buy one. So use my links below. Use my B&H links. They're really cool people and they support my channel. I didn't go to outer space because I'm not an astronaut. I took it to Ticonderoga, New York, which it's the second best thing. Because in Ticonderoga, New York, you're gonna find the Star Trek Original Series set tour. Now, this is a recreation of the entire Starship Enterprise set from the original 1960s Star Trek TV show, and it's literally nerd mecca. It's hard to nail this camera down because it's so special and different and unique, like me. It's an awesome camera. There's so much to love about this. And then there's some things that are things that I would have done differently if they asked me, but they didn't. They didn't ask me. Maybe they'll ask me next time. And that's what we're talking about today. So before we talk about the image quality, which is of course stellar, the images are pretty amazing, let's talk about probably the biggest part of this camera, which is the design. Because you know that most people who are gonna buy this camera are gonna buy it because just look at it, it's beautiful. I mean, it's a thing of absolute beauty. And when it comes to the design, it's almost perfect. That's how I think about the design of this camera. It's almost perfect with some things that really, I feel like they kind of missed the boat with. So Henry David Thoreau said famously, simplify, simplify. And the cool thing is, Fuji kind of listened to him half-heartedly with this because it is pretty simple in the design, the aesthetics. It doesn't really have a lot going on. However, I feel like they could have eliminated even more buttons and dials from this camera because it feels like they kind of were, you know, they're obviously going towards that Leica clean, high-end aesthetic, like that you just look at this and you know that whoever's carrying this around has a trust fund. Like that's the vibe they're going for. But I feel like in some ways they miss that. And I'm gonna explain to you how now. How now? First of all, it has this lever here, which I hope you can see there. I'm trying to get it to focus on here. What this does is it's a little zoom lever right here. And it zooms the aspect, not the aspect ratio, that's a different lever. It zooms the different lens focal lengths. So you can use this dial to digitally, there's no zoom lens in here, it'll digitally zoom in. But because it's 100 megapixels, who the hell cares? You have so many megapixels that it's still gonna look great. Here's the thing, I think that's a fine feature. I have no problem with that feature. It doesn't need a dedicated dial. And this dial to me, all it does is just muck up the user experience, take away the cleanness of this. And here's the thing, right above that weird zoom lever dial, check this out. This is the front command dial. And it took me a minute to find that because it's literally flush with the camera. And it's flush with the front grip. It's molded exactly to the grip. So at first I was like, there's no front command dial. There's just this weird zoom lever. But then I was like, oh, it's there. And it's so well done. These dials, the front and the rear command dial and the top plate and everything about this thing, it is premium beyond belief. Like it is primo premium. And it's so well done and so clean and simple that I just don't need that dial. I think you could put that into a button mapping, like you can map a button for it if you really use it that much. I don't use that stuff because I can just crop it after the fact, and there's no difference to doing that I can tell, because you're just digitally zooming or you're just cropping it. So that brings me to the other dial that I feel like is not needed at all, and I just don't think you need it, which is this. This is your aspect ratio dial. So they have a dedicated dial, which again is machined beautifully, looks beautiful, feels beautiful, and you can change that for different aspect ratios, 1:1, 3:4, 17:6. Again, for me, just I don't need that. I don't need this dial at all. And think about, without that dial, how much cleaner this whole thing would be without those two dials. So that's how I look at it. If you're gonna go for that simple aesthetic, just jump in, just jump all the way in. Don't just dip your toes in, Fuji. Go ahead, jump in. Now the other thing regarding the dials and buttons, like they went simple on the back of the camera. However, it's, you know, they don't give you a D-pad, which is annoying for people like me who use a lot of Fuji cameras, because a lot of the cameras have a slightly different button layout on the back. However, I don't think that matters so much for this camera, because the target audience for this is not gonna be us Fuji flakes. It's gonna be people who are looking more for like a one-off camera that's like a Leica style camera that's gonna cost you almost as much as a Leica and give you stupendous, amazing image quality that is gonna be your one and all camera. In a large way, I don't think that the way they lay out the buttons on here, they didn't do it for you and I who are Fuji flakes. I'm sorry, they just didn't. At least I don't think they did. And that's okay. It's just set up to be for someone who this is probably maybe their only Fuji camera. I tend to go negative a lot because I'm a New York Italian. So let me just reiterate that this thing is built beautifully. One of the things is every dial, every button, like I said, these command dials, the exposure compensation dial, the shutter speed dial, everything is machined so beautifully. My favorite part about the layout and the dials, besides just it's perfect, the size and the weight, and it's amazing how small it is. It's just a little bigger than an X-T5 or an X100 6. But the thing that I love is this. You have these little knobs on each side of the aperture ring, and that comes in so handy. And I don't know if you can hear that. Listen. Hear that gentle click? It's beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. Now that click alone, that's a $5,000 click, my friends. Pretty light too. It's not heavy. It doesn't feel like a brick. It does have an articulating screen, which you can do this and that with. Hey everyone, I'm interrupting my own video to tell you about two things really quickly. Number one, I have a Patreon now. So if you want, you can join me there. It's gonna have a private Discord where we can chat about photography. I'm gonna post early reviews. I'm gonna post behind the scenes content, all that kind of stuff. So check that out in the description below. And for those of you who are really looking to up your portrait photography and you're really serious about becoming an amazing portrait artist, I also run a coaching group for photographers. Now, we talk about becoming the best portrait artist you can be. We also talk about business. I do business mentoring and coaching in there, and we talk about life. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Again, all the info in the description, and I hope to see you there. Bye. What is there to say, really? The images are stupendous. They're stupidly good. The detail is crazy. I mean, for those of you who want to pixel peep and zoom in to like 400 or 500%, you're going to see a massive amount of detail. You're going to see not just a massive amount of detail, but you're going to see those beautiful Fuji colors. The colors are, you know, wonderful. It's Fujifilm. It's great for skin tones. It's great for outdoor colors. But what I did with it, besides photographing the Star Trek set, is I went to a local nature preserve that I like to go to often, and I did some nature shots, and the colors are beautiful. But you know what I really like doing even more than the color was I put it on black and white. I was using Acros, which those of you who follow know is one of my favorite film sims. And because the lens is so wide, I found myself going for kind of different angles and different shapes in the nature photos that I took. Now, I'm no nature photographer, clearly, but I got some really interesting shots, interesting angles. And that's where the 35 millimeter on this lens, which is again a 28 millimeter equivalent, really is fun to use, because any fixed lens camera really will force you to not default to what you're used to. So I found myself doing different things, trying to make this lens work, which is wider than I like to use. And I really loved some of the results I got. The detail is beautiful, the contrast, everything. There is some vignetting, however, which is not the end of the world. It's an easy fix. Besides that, image quality. Let's just talk about this for a second, because here's the way that I suggest you shoot. Just shoot in RAW, people. Shoot in RAW. Now, I know people like the aspect ratio dial and the zoom lever because you're shooting a lot of JPEGs. Believe me, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. So if you want to do that, then what I suggest you do is you take advantage of the 2 cards that this camera has. It has 2 card slots, and make card 1 RAW, card 2 JPEG. You get the best of both worlds. However, for me, I'm importing stuff into my computer and editing it anyway. So I'm just shooting in RAW, and then I can decide exactly what I want to do with it. So that's the way I always will suggest that you shoot. Just shoot 1 card RAW, the other card JPEG, and then if the JPEGs are good and you like them, then you're fine, but you have the RAW that you can work from, because even on this, you're still going to have a ton more latitude with the RAW files. And let's talk about that, because for me as a portrait photographer and someone who shoots a lot of studio photography, the main thing that I like about the GFX sensor that I feel is the true advantage, besides more detail and all of that. So, right, if you're a commercial photographer and you're gonna blow it up to a billboard, yes, we understand all of that. However, the thing that's not spoken about quite as much, unless I talk about it all the time, so you've heard me say it if you've watched my videos, is that you have just an idiotic amount of dynamic range. So what I mean by that is, if you shoot your image and you have an underexposed image, you can drag that shadow slider pretty much almost all the way and lift the shadows from the exposure, and it still looks great. Now, if you do this with, I've done this with a Fuji X camera, you can't. You can do it a little bit to a degree. You go too far with that slider, everything starts to break up. It gets that weird digital crappy look to it. Even with my Canon full frame R series camera, which is R5 45 megapixels with high-end RF glass, the images, the quality is pretty close as far as the detail to the GFX. Still not as good, but very close in practical terms especially. However, even there, you can pull the sliders, you can pull a lot of dynamic range. You can get a lot of the shadows out. You could pull a lot of the highlights out and get back detail in the overexposed areas as well. But you can't do nearly as much as you can do with this. And the main thing is, you can really pull it out and it still looks good. That's the thing about the GFX. Like, you have that wide amount of latitude without making the file look artifacty and weird and sort of like corrupted or wormy or whatever you want to call it. This, for me, is the main thing that makes this sensor, just in general, with any of the GFX 100 megapixel cameras, superior. And having it in this tiny little pocket camera, almost pocket camera, I mean, come on, that's a feat. We got to give Fuji props for that. It's pretty awesome. Again, though, it was challenging because I'm not using this wide a lens pretty much ever for portraits. I prefer a 35 to a 50 in full frame terms for my portrait work. One other thing I'll mention about that, the leaf shutter is just super cool, because the thing is, it's really quiet. You just hear a little gentle click, and you've taken a huge, massive file, which is kind of fun and just, I mean, 20 years ago, if you would have told me we'd have creations like this and self-driving cars, I would have been like, take me there, bro. Take me to the future. What is the limitation? The biggest limitation when it comes to this camera and the image quality is the f4 lens. So I found that out of everything about this camera, being stuck at f4 was the thing that kind of made everything harder for me, because there's a number of reasons why. Even I walked the nature trail in Lake George, and it was in the morning, it was kind of dark still, And I really had to use higher ISOs and stuff like that because the f4 wasn't cutting it to really get the image the way I wanted it to be. So that was one thing. Then, of course, in the Star Trek set tour, f4 was too slow, so I had to shoot at higher ISOs, got a little ISO artifacty stuff going on. And even in my portrait studio, because I'll shoot continuous lights like I use for my videos, I'll shoot these lights for portraits too, and I'll have a pretty dark scene because I like drama in my portraits. And even there, the f4 kind of forced me to use a higher ISO than I might want to. So I might have had to use 1000 or 1200, and I rather have a faster lens, of course, and shoot a slower ISO. Practically speaking, you can shoot those ISOs, especially in a controlled situation like a studio. You can have no problems. But that was the one thing about the shooting experience relating to the image quality and all of that, that wasn't really the best for me. That was the one thing that I would obviously love to have this as a 2.8 lens. Now, there's some other things about this camera that people don't like. It doesn't have an IBIS system. I don't know. For me, it didn't really change the way I shot. I think if you're steady, you can still shoot at pretty slow shutter speeds. However, I did see sometimes where images that I thought I could handhold were just slightly off. So that, again, is not great. That's something to know before you dump that huge amount of money on this camera, that it doesn't have IBIS. Now, that brings me to my final thing. Like, who is this camera for? And I kind of touched upon it a little bit, but this camera is not, it's not really geared towards, in my mind at least, the Fuji shooters who are buying 3 or 4 or 5 Fuji cameras and have tons of lenses. I think this is, because it's like a chunky, fuller figure than full frame camera, I think Fuji's trying to go to another market of consumer with this camera as well. So just like they got all the TikTok people with the X100 series, this is definitely something that, like, if you have disposable income and you love photography and it's not your job, but you just love beautiful cameras, beautiful images, and this is what you do, this is for you. This is a camera for you. So put on your ascot, get in your Rolls Royce, drive to B&H, and just get one. In fact, you should get 2 because you can get one in black and one in silver. And then you can match it to your Brooks Brothers suits. I don't know what else to say other than thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like the channel. This YouTube thing, it's a labor of love, folks. It's not for the weak-minded or the weak of spirit. It's tough. So hit that subscribe button, gently press that like button. You don't have to smash it. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you think about Star Trek in the comments. But here's wishing you an awesome day. Go out, take some great pictures, no matter what camera you use, and buy one of these. Use my link. Use my link. Peace.